Marcus Chun pulled his jacket tighter as he stepped out of the grocery store into the howling Montana blizzard. Snow whipped across the parking lot like angry ghosts, and the temperature had dropped to -20 degrees. His 8-year-old daughter, Emma, waited in their old pickup truck, her breath fogging the windows as she drew pictures in the condensation. "Daddy's coming, sweetheart," he muttered, struggling with the grocery bags as the wind tried to tear them from his grip. The war in Syria had taken his left arm below the elbow, but he had learned to manage most things with his remaining hand and his prosthetic. Tonight, however, the cold made everything harder. As he approached the truck, something caught his eye near the dumpsters behind the store. A pale blue glow emanated from what looked like a crumpled heap of fabric. Marcus squinted through the driving snow, his military instincts kicking in. The glow was too steady to be a reflection, too blue to be natural. "Emma, stay in the truck," he called, setting the groceries by the passenger door. His daughter nodded, used to her father's careful nature after 3 years of single parenthood. Marcus approached the glowing mass cautiously. As he got closer, he realized it wasn't fabric at all, but skin, pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer with an inner light. A woman lay curled in the snow, her body trembling violently. She was tall, maybe 6 feet, with elongated limbs and features that were almost human, but not quite. Her hair was white as fresh snow, and her ears came to subtle points. She was clearly not from Earth. Marcus had seen enough impossible things during his tours overseas to not immediately dismiss what his eyes were telling him. Instead, he knelt beside the alien woman, noting that she wore what appeared to be a form-fitting suit made of some silvery material that had been torn in several places. She was conscious, but barely, her large violet eyes unfocused, and her lips moving soundlessly. "Hey," he said softly, reaching out with his good hand to touch her shoulder. Her skin was ice cold, far colder than the air around them. "Can you understand me?" The woman's eyes focused on his face, and she tried to speak. The words came out in a musical language he had never heard before, but her tone was clearly one of distress and gratitude. She was dying from the cold, that much was obvious. Marcus looked back at his truck, where Emma was pressed against the window watching him. He thought of his own military training, of the oaths he had taken to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. He thought of his daughter, who had already lost her mother to cancer 2 years ago. Was he really going to bring an alien into their home? The woman in the snow made the decision for him. She reached up with a shaking hand and grasped his jacket, her violet eyes pleading. In that moment, she wasn't an alien or a potential threat. She was just someone in trouble, someone who needed help. "Okay," Marcus said, making up his mind. "We're going to get you warm." He struggled to lift her with one arm, but managed to get her to her feet. She was surprisingly light despite her height, and she leaned heavily against him as they made their way to the truck. Emma's eyes went wide as they approached. "Daddy, is she okay?" Emma asked as Marcus helped the alien woman into the back seat of the extended cab. "She's very cold, sweetheart. We need to get her home and warmed up." Marcus grabbed the groceries and tossed them in the truck bed, not caring if the milk froze. He cranked the heater to maximum and pulled out of the parking lot, glancing frequently in the rearview mirror at their unusual passenger. The woman had stopped glowing, which worried him. During the drive home, she drifted in and out of consciousness, occasionally mumbling in her strange musical language. Emma had turned around in her seat and was watching her with the fearless curiosity that only children possessed. "She's really pretty, Daddy," Emma whispered, "like a snow princess." Marcus smiled despite his concerns. "Yeah, she is Em, but we don't know anything about her, so we need to be careful, okay?" Their house was a modest ranch-style home on 5 acres outside of Billings. Marcus had bought it with his disability payments and the life insurance money from his wife's death. It was isolated enough that he didn't have to worry about nosy neighbors asking questions about his alien house guest. Getting the woman inside proved challenging. She was awake but weak, and Marcus had to practically carry her from the truck to the front door. Once inside, he helped her to the couch in the living room, where she collapsed gratefully. Emma, go start a bath with warm water, not hot, he instructed his daughter. And bring me some blankets from the hall closet. As Emma scurried off to help, Marcus knelt beside the couch and studied their guest more carefully. Her skin had returned to its pale blue color, and he could see now that it had an almost crystalline quality to it. Her hair wasn't white, but rather a very pale blue, and it seemed to move with a life of its own. The torn areas of her suit revealed that her body was essentially humanoid, though more slender and graceful than most humans. She opened her eyes and looked at him, and this time when she spoke, the words were in accented but understandable English. "Thank you," she said, her voice like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "I thought I would die in that cold place." Marcus felt his eyebrows rise. "You speak English?" "I am learning," she replied, struggling to sit up. "My people, we can absorb languages from neural patterns when we're close to other beings. It takes time, but your language is entering my mind." "Your people?" Marcus repeated. "Where are you from? How did you end up behind a grocery store in Montana?" The woman's expression grew sad. "My name is Zara. I am from a world you would not know, many light years from here. My ship was damaged in an attack by raiders. I managed to escape in a life pod, but it crashed in your mountains. I have been walking for days, growing weaker from the cold." Emma returned with an armload of blankets, followed by the sound of running water from the bathroom. "The bath is ready, Daddy," she announced, then looked shyly at Zara. "Are you really from space?" Zara's expression softened, and she managed a small smile. "Yes, little one, from very far away in space." "That's so cool." Emma's eyes lit up. "Can you do magic?" "Emma," Marcus warned gently, but Zara held up a hand. "It is all right," she said. "I can do things that might seem like magic to you." She held out her palm, and slowly, a small flower made of ice began to form in her hand. The ice glowed with the same pale blue light as her skin, and the flower was perfect in every detail. Emma gasped in delight and clapped her hands. "It's beautiful." Zara offered the ice flower to Emma, who took it carefully. "It will not melt as long as you believe it is real," Zara said softly. Marcus watched this interaction with a mixture of wonder and concern. The woman claiming to be an alien had just performed what could only be described as magic in his living room. Yet she seemed genuine, even vulnerable. And Emma was clearly already smitten with her strange guest. "Let's get you warmed up first, then we can talk more," Marcus said practically. "Emma, can you help Zara to the bathroom? I'll find some clothes that might fit her." As he rummaged through his closet for his largest clothing items, Marcus couldn't help but think about how drastically his life had just changed. 6 months ago, his biggest concerns had been Emma's grades and whether he could afford to fix the truck's transmission. Now he was harboring what appeared to be an extraterrestrial refugee in his home. But as he listened to Emma chattering excitedly to Zara about Earth customs and human culture, Marcus realized that maybe this was exactly what both he and his daughter needed. Emma had been withdrawn since her mother's death, and he had been struggling to connect with her while dealing with his own grief and adjustment to civilian life. Perhaps helping someone else would help them heal as well. When Zara emerged from the bathroom an hour later, she looked much better. Her skin had returned to its natural glow, and she moved with more energy. Marcus's clothes hung loosely on her tall frame, but she had managed to make them work. Her hair, now clean and dry, caught the light like spun silver. "Thank you," she said again, settling back onto the couch. "I feel much stronger now." "Good," Marcus said, taking a seat across from her while Emma curled up on the floor with her homework. "Now, I need to know what I'm dealing with here. Are there others looking for you? Are we in danger by helping you?" Zara's expression grew troubled. "The raiders who attacked my ship may search for survivors, but they would not likely come to this world. Earth is considered primitive by galactic standards, not worth their attention." "Primitive," Marcus repeated with a wry smile. "Thanks. I did not mean offense," Zara said quickly. "Your people have great potential. It is just that you have not yet achieved interstellar travel or made contact with the greater galactic community." "So there's a galactic community out there," Marcus mused, "and we're not part of it." "Not yet," Zara agreed. But that may change sooner than your people expect. Emma looked up from her math homework. Are there lots of different kinds of aliens? Many different species, yes, Zara replied. Some are very different from humans. Others are quite similar. My people, the Kithara, are what you might call ice dwellers. We evolved on a world of eternal winter. Is that why you were so cold? Emma asked. Yes. My body is adapted to much colder temperatures than your world provides. The warmth here is actually quite pleasant for me now. Marcus leaned forward. How long do you think you'll need to recover before you can contact your people or fix your ship? Zara was quiet for a long moment. My ship is beyond repair, and my people, they believe I am dead. The attack on our vessel was sudden and devastating. I managed to send out a distress signal before I escaped, but I do not know if anyone received it. So you're stuck here, Marcus said gently. It appears so, yes. Zara's voice was steady, but Marcus could see the fear and uncertainty in her violet eyes. I'm truly sorry for bringing this burden to your home. If you wish me to leave, I understand. Marcus looked at his daughter, who was watching them both with intense interest. He thought about the ice flower still sitting on Emma's desk, still glowing with its impossible light. He thought about the loneliness that had plagued their house since his wife's death, and the way Emma had smiled more in the past few hours than she had in weeks. You're not a burden, he said finally. You're welcome to stay as long as you need to. But we'll need to figure out a story to tell people about who you are. A cover identity. Zara's eyes widened in surprise and gratitude. You would do this for me? A stranger from another world? You're not a stranger anymore, Emma piped up. You're our friend. Marcus nodded. Emma's right. And where I come from, we don't abandon friends. For the first time since he had found her in the snow, Zara truly smiled. And in that smile, Marcus caught a glimpse of something that made his heart skip a beat. It wasn't just gratitude or relief. It was something deeper, something that spoke to the lonely parts of his soul that he had carefully locked away since becoming a single father. But that was a complication for another day. For now, he had an alien to help acclimate to human society and a daughter who was about to have the most interesting childhood in Montana. The first month of living with Zara proved to be both challenging and surprisingly wonderful. Marcus had told his neighbors and Emma's school that Zara was a distant cousin from Norway who had come to stay with them after a family tragedy. Her pale features and accented English made the story believable enough, and most people in their rural community minded their own business anyway. Zara proved to be a quick learner and eager to help around the house. Within days, she had mastered the basics of human cooking, though she insisted on adding strange spices that she somehow created from ice crystals. The food she prepared was unlike anything Marcus had ever tasted, and Emma declared it the most magical cooking ever. How do you do that? Marcus asked one evening, watching Zara create what appeared to be vanilla from frozen air. My people learned long ago to extract nutrients and flavors from our environment, Zara explained, her hands moving gracefully as she worked. On my world, we must be resourceful to survive. Ice can be made to taste like anything if you know how to structure its molecular composition. Marcus shook his head in amazement. Even after weeks of living with her, Zara's abilities continued to surprise him. She could regulate the temperature of any room simply by concentrating, could create complex ice sculptures that never melted, and could somehow sense the emotional states of those around her. Is Emma sad today? Zara had asked him that morning, even before Emma had come down for breakfast. How did you know? Marcus had replied, surprised. Emma had been dealing with the anniversary of her mother's death approaching, but she hadn't said anything about it. I can feel it, Zara had said simply. Her heart carries a cold weight today. Perhaps I can help. When Emma had finally emerged from her room that morning, red-eyed and quiet, Zara had somehow known exactly what to do. She had sat with the little girl and created an ice sculpture of a woman with gentle features and flowing hair, capturing the essence of Emma's mother from the photographs around the house. This is so your mother can watch over you always, Zara had said softly. In my culture, we believe that love creates a bridge between this world and the next. This ice will hold her memory and her love for you." Emma had cried, but they were healing tears, and afterward she had seemed lighter somehow. Marcus had watched from the kitchen doorway, his heart tight with gratitude for this strange woman who had somehow understood his daughter's grief better than he had. It wasn't just Emma that Zara helped heal. Marcus found himself talking to her about things he had never discussed with anyone else. His struggles with adjusting to civilian life, his fears about raising Emma alone, his nightmares about the war that had cost him his arm, and several of his friends. "On my world," Zara told him one evening as they sat on the porch watching the Montana sunset, "we have a saying, the strongest ice is forged in the deepest cold. Your experiences have made you stronger, not weaker." "Sometimes I don't feel strong," Marcus admitted. "Sometimes I feel like I'm barely holding it together for Emma's sake." Zara turned to look at him, her violet eyes serious. "Strength is not the absence of struggle, Marcus. It is continuing to fight when everything inside you wants to surrender. You saved me from the cold, but you are already saving your daughter every day simply by being there for her." Those words stayed with Marcus, warming him more than any fire could. Zara had a way of seeing straight to the heart of things, of finding hope in the darkest places. As the weeks passed, Marcus began to notice changes in himself. The nightmares came less frequently. He smiled more. He found himself looking forward to coming home each evening, not just to see Emma, but to see Zara as well. This realization troubled him. Zara was an alien from another world, someone who would likely leave Earth eventually if she ever found a way to contact her people. Getting emotionally attached to her would only lead to heartbreak for both him and Emma. But late at night, when he checked on Emma and found Zara sitting by her bedside creating tiny ice butterflies that danced around the sleeping child, it became harder and harder to guard his heart. Emma, for her part, had completely accepted Zara as part of their family. She introduced her to friends as My Space Aunt Zara and insisted on taking her to every school event and town gathering. Zara's gentle nature and exotic beauty made her popular with both children and adults, though she always seemed most comfortable in the quiet of their home. "Daddy," Emma said one evening as Marcus tucked her into bed, "are you going to marry Zara?" The question caught Marcus off guard. "Why would you ask that, sweetheart?" "Because you look at her the way you used to look at Mommy," Emma said matter-of-factly. "And she looks at you that way too. And she makes you happy." Marcus felt his cheeks burn. It's complicated. Zara is different. She's not from here, and she might not stay forever." Emma considered this seriously. "But what if she wants to stay? What if she likes being our family?" Before Marcus could answer, there was a soft knock on the door. Zara peered in, carrying a tray with 3 mugs of her special hot chocolate. "I thought you might enjoy a bedtime treat," she said, setting the tray on Emma's nightstand. The hot chocolate was somehow perfectly temperatured and tasted like Christmas morning and summer afternoons all at once. "Zara," Emma said suddenly, "do you want to stay with us forever?" Zara's hand stilled on her mug, and she glanced at Marcus before looking back at Emma. I have never been happier than I am here with you, and your father," she said carefully. "But my presence here may not be permanent. There are things about my people and my world that you do not yet understand." "What kind of things?" Emma pressed. Zara was quiet for a long moment, and Marcus could see internal struggle in her expression. "My people live much longer than humans," she said finally, "and we form very strong emotional bonds. When we care for someone, it is intense and enduring." "That sounds good to me," Emma declared. "I want someone who will love us for a really long time." After Emma fell asleep, Marcus walked Zara out to the living room. "You don't have to feel obligated to stay because of what Emma said," he told her. "I know this situation is temporary." Zara turned to face him, and there was something in her eyes that made his breath catch. "Is that what you believe? That this is temporary, isn't it?" Marcus asked, though part of him desperately hoped she would say no. "Not if I have any choice in the matter," Zara said softly. "Marcus, I must tell you something. My people, when we form deep attachments, it affects us physically. We cannot simply leave those we care for without causing ourselves great pain. What are you saying? I am saying that even if a ship came tomorrow to take me home, I do not know if I could leave you and Emma. You have become part of me, as essential as air or water. Marcus felt his world tilt. Zura, I know this complicates things, she continued quickly. I know, I'm not human, that there are differences between us that may seem insurmountable. But what I feel for you, for both of you, is real. Marcus reached out and took her hand. Her skin was cool but warming under his touch, and he could see the faint glow that appeared whenever she experienced strong emotions. What I feel for you is real too, he admitted. But I need to know that you're staying because you want to, not because you feel trapped by some biological imperative. Zara smiled, and her hand began to glow brighter. Marcus Chun, you saved my life in that parking lot. But more than that, you and Emma saved my soul. I want to stay not because I must, but because I choose to. Because this place, this life with you, is the first place I have ever truly felt I belonged. Before Marcus could respond, she leaned forward and kissed him. Her lips were soft and cool, and the kiss tasted like winter starlight. When they broke apart, Marcus realized that the air around them had filled with tiny snowflakes that glowed like fireflies. Did you just make it snow in my living room? He asked, laughing. It happens when I am very happy, Zara said, blushing in a way that made her skin shimmer like aurora light. I am still learning to control my emotional responses in this warmer climate. Marcus pulled her closer, marveling at how perfectly she fit against him despite the differences in their origins. I think I can learn to live with magical snowstorms. They were interrupted by the sound of Emma's feet on the stairs. Daddy? Zara? Why is it snowing inside? Marcus and Zara broke apart, and Marcus grinned at his daughter's delighted expression. Zara was just showing me something special, he said. Emma clapped her hands as the glowing snowflakes swirled around the room. This is the best family ever, she declared, and Marcus realized that she was absolutely right. Later that night, after Emma had returned to bed and the magical snow had faded, Marcus and Zara sat together on the couch making plans. They talked about practical things like how to explain Zara's lack of official documentation if they decided to get married, and how to help her find work that would make use of her unique abilities without revealing their true nature. But underneath the practical concerns, they both knew they had crossed a threshold. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Marcus had saved an alien in a blizzard, but in return, he had found something he hadn't even known he was looking for, a chance at a love deeper and more magical than anything he had ever imagined. As they talked and planned, neither of them noticed the faint signal that pulsed from the ice flower Zara had given Emma on that first night. The flower sat on Emma's nightstand, still glowing, still perfect, and now sending out a beacon that would take months to reach its destination. But when it did, their quiet life in Montana would change forever. These 6 months after finding Zara in the snow, Marcus stood in the small courthouse in downtown Billings, adjusting his tie for the 3rd time. Emma sat in the front row, wearing her best dress, the ice flower from Zara still pinned to her collar, where she wore it every day like a badge of honor. Stop fidgeting, Daddy, Emma whispered loudly. Zara looks beautiful. Marcus looked toward the courthouse doors and felt his breath catch. Zara entered wearing a simple white dress that she had somehow modified to complement her otherworldly beauty. Her pale blue skin seemed to glow with inner light, and her silver hair had been braided with what appeared to be actual ice crystals that caught the afternoon sunlight streaming through the windows. She does indeed, agreed Judge Patterson, who had become a friend of the family over the past months. The elderly judge had been intrigued by Zara's unusual background story and had helped them navigate the legal complexities of marrying someone without traditional documentation. The ceremony itself was simple but perfect. Marcus had worried about whether human marriage customs would have meaning for someone from another world, but Zara had embraced every tradition with genuine enthusiasm. When the judge asked if she would love and cherish Marcus through all circumstances, Her "I will" rang through the courthouse with such conviction that several witnesses wiped away tears. "You may kiss the bride," Judge Patterson announced with a smile. When Marcus kissed Zara, the air around them filled with the same magical snow that had appeared during their first kiss. The courthouse witnesses gasped and applauded, assuming it was some kind of special effect. Only Emma knew the truth, and she clapped loudest of all. "Best wedding ever," she declared, catching snowflakes on her tongue. The reception was held at their home, with neighbors and friends from town gathering to celebrate. Marcus watched Zara move through the crowd, charming everyone she met with her gentle manner and exotic accent. Mrs. Henderson from the grocery store was particularly taken with her. "That girl of yours is something special, Marcus," she told him while watching Zara help Emma and the other children create ice sculptures on the lawn. "Never seen anyone so good with kids or so devoted to family." "She really is special," Marcus agreed, meaning it in ways Mrs. Henderson couldn't imagine. As the evening progressed and their guests began to leave, Marcus found himself standing on the porch watching his wife play with the neighborhood children. The word wife still felt surreal, but wonderfully so. Zara had taken his name, becoming Zara Chun, though she had quietly told him that in her culture, marriage was more about the blending of souls than the changing of names. "Daddy," Emma said, appearing at his side with grass stains on her dress and flowers in her hair. "I'm really glad you married Zara." "Yeah? Why's that, kiddo?" "Because now she's really my mom," Emma said simply. "She's been taking care of us like a mom since she got here, but now it's official." Marcus felt his throat tighten. Since her mother's death, Emma had been the most important thing in his world. Seeing her so completely accept and love Zara meant everything to him. "She loves you very much, Em. We both do." "I know," Emma said with the confidence of a child who had never doubted her place in the world. "And now our family is complete." Later that night, after Emma had fallen asleep and the last of the wedding cleanup was finished, Marcus and Zara sat together on their bed, still in their wedding clothes, talking about their future. "Are you happy?" Marcus asked, studying his wife's face in the moonlight. "Happier than I ever imagined possible," Zara replied, taking his hand. "On my world, marriages are arranged for political or economic advantage. The idea of marrying for love was foreign to me until I came here." "What was your life like there?" Marcus asked. He had learned bits and pieces about Zara's past, but she rarely spoke of her home world in detail. Zara was quiet for a moment, her fingers tracing patterns on his hand. "Cold," she said finally. "Not just the temperature, though that was harsh enough. The emotional climate was cold as well. My people are not unkind, but we are reserved, formal. Emotional displays are considered weakness." "That sounds lonely." It was. I did not realize how lonely until I came here and experienced warmth for the first time. She smiled at him. "Not just the physical warmth of your climate, but the emotional warmth of your family. The way you and Emma express love so freely, so openly. It changed something fundamental in me." Marcus brought her hand to his lips and kissed her palm. "You've changed us too. Emma is happier than she's been since her mother died. And I—" He paused, searching for the right words. "I feel like I'm actually living again, not just surviving." They made love that night with a tenderness that spoke of deep commitment and genuine affection. Afterward, as they lay entwined in the darkness, Zara told him things about her world and her people that she had never shared before. She spoke of crystal cities that rose from frozen seas, of aurora storms that could be seen from space, of ancient traditions and technologies that seemed like magic to human understanding. "Do you ever miss it?" Marcus asked softly. "I miss the beauty of it," Zara admitted. "And I sometimes worry about my family, whether they survive the raider attacks. But I do not miss the life I had there. Here, with you and Emma, I have found something my people have forgotten how to value: the warmth of chosen family." The next few months passed in domestic bliss. Zara had found work at the local community college, teaching what she called advanced chemistry, but What Marcus suspected was actually basic alien science adapted for human understanding. Her students adored her, and several of her innovations in low-temperature chemical processes had attracted attention from larger universities. Emma continued to thrive, her grades improving, and her social circle expanding as other children were drawn to the gentle woman who always had time to listen and could create the most amazing ice sculptures for school projects. She had taken to calling Zara Mom naturally, without any prompting or discussion. Marcus had returned to work at the local Veterans Center, helping other former military personnel adjust to civilian life. Having Zara's support and understanding at home made him better at his job, more able to connect with the men and women who came to him struggling with their own transitions. Everything seemed perfect until the night Zara woke up screaming. Marcus bolted upright, immediately alert. Zara was sitting up in bed, her skin glowing brighter than he had ever seen it, her eyes wide with terror. The temperature in the room had dropped dramatically, and frost was forming on the windows despite the summer heat outside. "Zara, what's wrong?" he asked, reaching for her. "They're coming," she whispered, her voice filled with dread. "I can feel them. They found me." "Who's coming?" Marcus demanded, his military training kicking in. "The raiders?" "No," Zara said, struggling to control her breathing and the wild energy radiating from her body. "My people, the Kithra, they're in your solar system." Marcus felt his blood run cold. "How do you know?" "The ice flower," Zara said, turning to look at him with anguished eyes. "The one I made for Emma on my first night here. I created it with part of my essence, my biological signature. It has been sending out a signal all this time. I thought the distance was too great, that no one would ever detect it, but they did. Yes, and they're coming to collect me." Emma appeared in the doorway, rubbing her eyes. "Mom? Dad? What's happening? Why is it so cold?" Zara immediately began to calm herself, bringing the temperature back to normal for Emma's sake. "Come here, little star," she said, using her pet name for Emma. "Everything is all right." But Marcus could see in Zara's eyes that everything was not all right. As Emma climbed into bed between them, seeking comfort from a nightmare she didn't understand, Marcus held his family close and tried to process what this meant. Zara's people were coming. The life they had built together, the happiness they had found, was about to be tested in ways none of them could have imagined. "How long do we have?" he asked quietly. "Days, perhaps a week," Zara replied, her voice steady for Emma's sake, but her hand trembling as she stroked their daughter's hair. "Will they hurt us?" "They will not understand," Zara said carefully. "My people do not form attachments to other species. They will see my bonds to you and Emma as a form of contamination, something that needs to be corrected." "Corrected how?" Zara's silence was answer enough. As dawn broke over their home in Montana, Marcus held his wife and daughter and made a silent vow. He had found Zara frozen and dying in a parking lot, and he had saved her life. Now, someone was coming to take her away from the life she had chosen, from the family she loved. They would have to go through him first. Marcus Chun had been a soldier once, and some things a man never forgot. As he watched the sunrise paint the mountains gold and listened to his family sleeping peacefully in his arms, he began to plan. The Kithara might be technologically advanced, but they had never faced a human father protecting his family. They were about to learn what humanity was truly capable of when pushed too far. The Kithara ship appeared over their property 3 days later, just after sunset. Marcus had been expecting it, watching the skies since Zara's premonition, but the reality of seeing an actual alien spacecraft hovering above his home still took his breath away. The vessel was beautiful in an alien way, crystalline and organic, looking like a massive snowflake made of ice and starlight. It cast no shadow despite its size, and the air around it shimmered with the same aurora-like energy that sometimes surrounded Zara when she was emotional. "Emma, go to your room and stay there no matter what you hear," Marcus commanded, his voice carrying the authority of his military days. His daughter, who had been watching from the living room window, recognized the tone and obeyed without argument. Zara stood beside him on the porch, her posture rigid with tension. She had changed into her original garments, the silvery suit that she had arrived in, now repaired with ice crystals that made it shimmer like armor. She looked regal and alien, and for a moment Marcus was reminded of how different she truly was. "I have to go with them, Marcus," she said quietly, not taking her eyes off the ship. "If I refuse, they will take me by force, and you and Emma could be hurt." "Like hell," Marcus replied, checking the rifle he held. It was probably useless against alien technology, but it made him feel better to have it. "We're a family. Families stick together." "You do not understand their power," Zara said, her voice filled with anguish. "They can freeze the air in your lungs, stop your heart with a thought. I will not allow them to harm you." A beam of light descended from the ship, and 3 figures materialized on their front lawn. They were clearly of the same species as Zara, but more imposing, taller, and more angular. Their skin was a deeper blue, almost navy, and their hair was pure white. They wore elaborate robes that seemed to be made of frozen starlight, and they moved with the predatory grace of apex predators. The leader, a male with eyes like chips of blue ice, stepped forward and spoke in a musical language Marcus had first heard from Zara. His tone was commanding and dismissive. Zara responded in the same language, her voice steady but defiant. The conversation grew heated, and Marcus could see the alien leader's expression growing more hostile. "What are they saying?" Marcus asked. "Prince Kael demands that I return with them immediately," Zara translated, never taking her eyes off the Kithra delegation. "He says my attachment to your species is an abomination that brings shame to our people." "And what did you tell him?" "I told him that I have chosen my life and my family, and I will not abandon them." The prince switched to accented English, his voice like wind over a glacier. "You will return, Zara of the Northern Reaches. Your bonding to these inferior beings will be severed, and you will be restored to your proper place." "I'm already in my proper place," Zara replied, moving to stand beside Marcus. "These people are my family now." The prince's gaze shifted to Marcus, and those ice-blue eyes were filled with contempt. "You are the human who corrupted her. You took advantage of her weakened state to create this unnatural attachment." Marcus felt his temper flare. "I saved her life, and she chose to stay with us. No one corrupted anyone. Humans are incapable of understanding the complexity of Kithra bonding," the prince said dismissively. "You are a primitive species that mistakes physical attraction for true connection." "Prince Kael," Zara interjected, her voice sharp with warning. "Do not speak of my husband with such disrespect." The word husband seemed to hit the alien prince like a physical blow. His skin darkened to an almost black blue, and the air around him began to frost. "Husband," he spat, "you defiled yourself with a mating bond to this creature." "I married him because I love him," Zara said firmly. "Love, Kael. Something our people have forgotten in their pursuit of cold perfection." The prince raised his hand, and Marcus felt the temperature around them plummet. Ice began to form on his skin, and his breath came out in harsh puffs of vapor. "You speak of love as if it is a virtue rather than a weakness. I will correct this madness." But before the prince could act further, a small voice cut through the tension. "Leave my mom alone." Emma had disobeyed orders and come outside. She stood on the porch in her pajamas, clutching the ice flower that Zara had made for her on that first night. The flower was glowing brighter than Marcus had ever seen it, pulsing with warm light that seemed to push back against the alien's cold aura. The prince stared at the child, his expression shifting from contempt to confusion to something that might have been recognition. "The flower carries her essence," he said slowly, as if working through a difficult problem. "The child has been exposed to Kithra bonding energy for months." "What does that mean?" Marcus demanded, stepping protectively in front of Emma. Prince Kael's eyes widened in what was clearly shock. "It means," he said slowly, "that your offspring has begun to develop Kithra abilities. The flower has been gradually altering her biology, preparing her for transition." Marcus felt the world tilt beneath his feet. Transition to what? To become one of us, the prince replied, his voice filled with amazement. In all our history, we have never successfully bonded with another species. But, somehow, your child has adapted to Zara's essence. She's becoming Kithra. Emma, oblivious to the implications of this conversation, stepped forward and held up the ice flower. Zara made this for me because she loves me, she said with the simple clarity of childhood. And I love her too. She's my mom, and you can't take her away. As if responding to Emma's words, the flower blazed with light, and suddenly, the air around them filled with the same magical snow that appeared whenever Zara was deeply moved. But this snow wasn't coming from Zara. It was coming from Emma. Impossible, breathed one of the other Kithra. But Prince Kale was staring at the child with an expression Marcus had never seen on an alien face before. Wonder. The legends speak of such things, he murmured. The ancient texts tell of a time when our people could share their essence with other species, creating bonds that transcended biology. We thought it was myth. It's not myth, Zara said quietly. It's love. Something that can't be quantified or controlled or corrected. Marcus and Emma didn't corrupt me, Kale. They completed me. The prince looked between Zara and her human family, his expression troubled. But the Council of Elders demands your return. Your disappearance has created political complications. Your betrothal to Lord Crisser was meant to unite two powerful houses. Then, tell Lord Crisser to find another bride, Zara replied. I am exactly where I belong. The council will not accept this. They will send warriors to retrieve you by force. It was then that Marcus stepped forward, his rifle lowered but his posture still alert. Let me ask you something, Your Highness, he said, using the same tone he had once used to address difficult superior officers. How many worlds have your people conquered through force? We do not conquer, the prince replied stiffly. We maintain order through superior technology and rational governance. Right. And how's that working out for you? Because from where I stand, it looks like you've created a society so cold and logical that one of your own chose to live with inferior humans rather than return to it. The prince's eyes narrowed dangerously. You dare criticize Kithra civilization? I'm not criticizing anything, Marcus said calmly. I'm just pointing out that maybe there's something to be learned here. Zara has been happier in the past year than she ever was on your ice world. Emma is developing abilities that your people thought were mythical. Maybe instead of trying to force Zara to return to your way of life, you should ask yourself why she doesn't want to. For a long moment, the only sound was the wind through the Montana grass and the soft chiming of Emma's magical snowflakes. The prince stared at this human family that had somehow accomplished what his entire civilization had been unable to achieve, and Marcus could see the internal struggle in those ice-blue eyes. Finally, Prince Kale turned to Zara. The council expects my report within the solar week. What shall I tell them? Tell them that Zara of the Northern Reaches died in the Raider attack, Zara said without hesitation. But that a new person was born on Earth. Zara Chun, wife and mother, teacher and friend. Tell them that she has found something worth more than all the crystal palaces of our homeworld. And if they do not accept this, Marcus stepped closer to his wife, taking her hand. Then they'll have to go through all of us. And I think they'll find that humans are a lot more stubborn than they expect. Emma nodded vigorously. Yeah, and I can do snow magic now, too. To demonstrate, she created a small blizzard around herself, giggling as the snowflakes danced around her pajamas. Prince Kale watched this display with an expression that was becoming increasingly thoughtful. There is precedent for citizens choosing exile over their assigned duties, he said slowly. And the child's development is scientifically fascinating. Perhaps a case could be made for establishing an observation post to study these developments. An observation post? Zara asked suspiciously. A single representative, remaining on Earth to monitor the situation and report back to the council. Someone to ensure that this family unit remains stable and beneficial to all parties involved. Marcus raised an eyebrow. And who would this representative be? The prince was quiet for a long moment, staring at the impossible sight of a human child creating Kithara snow magic while laughing with pure joy. "I volunteer for the assignment," he said finally. Zara's eyes widened in shock. "Kale, you cannot be serious. You are a prince of the realm. You have duties, responsibilities." "I have spent 3 centuries following duties and responsibilities," Prince Kale replied. "And in that time, I have never seen anything as remarkable as what you have built here. Perhaps it is time I learned what you have discovered about this love you speak of." Marcus looked at his wife, seeing his own surprise reflected in her expression. "You want to stay on Earth? With us?" "I want to understand," the prince said simply. "And perhaps in doing so, I can help my people understand as well." As if in response to his words, Emma walked over to the imposing alien prince and held out her hand. "Do you want to see my room? I have lots of ice flowers that Mom made for me." Prince Kale stared down at the small human child offering friendship to someone who had threatened her family just moments before. Slowly, carefully, he knelt down to Emma's level. "I would be honored to see your collection, young one," he said, his voice gentler than Marcus had thought possible. As Emma led the alien prince toward their house, chattering excitedly about her various ice sculptures and Zara's cooking, Marcus shook his head in amazement. "Think this is going to work?" he asked Zara. "With Emma involved?" "How could it not?" Zara replied, smiling as they watched their daughter explain human customs to an alien prince. "She has a gift for melting even the coldest hearts." Marcus put his arm around his wife and watched his family grow by one more member. It wasn't the quiet life he had planned when he first brought Zara home from that snowy parking lot, but he was beginning to think that the best things in life were the ones you never planned for at all. 2 years later, the Chen household had become something unprecedented in galactic history, the first successful human Kithara cultural exchange program. Prince Kale, who now went by Kyle when dealing with humans in town, had adapted to Earth life with surprising enthusiasm. The former alien prince had traded his robes of frozen starlight for jeans and flannel shirts, though he still maintained an otherworldly elegance that made him popular with the local population. He had taken a job at the same community college where Zara worked, teaching what the course catalog listed as advanced environmental sciences, but was actually basic terraforming theory. Emma, now 10 years old, had become something entirely new in the universe. Her human emotions and creativity combined with developing Kithara abilities made her capable of ice magic that even impressed Prince Kale. More importantly, she had become a bridge between the species, translating not just languages but entire ways of thinking. "Dad, Kyle is being stubborn about the Christmas decorations again," Emma announced, bursting through the front door with snow in her hair and excitement in her eyes. Marcus looked up from the veterinary medical journals he had been reading. After discovering that his wife's healing abilities worked on animals as well as humans, he had decided to pursue veterinary medicine, something that had always interested him, but hadn't seemed practical as a single father. Now, with Zara and Kyle to help with Emma and the household, he was 6 months away from graduation. "What's wrong with the Christmas decorations?" Marcus asked, though he suspected he knew. "He says they're not symmetrical enough," Emma reported, rolling her eyes in a way that reminded Marcus powerfully of his late first wife. "But Christmas isn't supposed to be perfect. It's supposed to be fun." Prince Kale entered the house behind Emma, his dignity somewhat compromised by the Christmas lights tangled in his silver hair. "I merely suggested that the decorative arrangement could be optimized for both aesthetic appeal and energy efficiency," he said with wounded pride. "Kyle," Zara called from the kitchen, her voice warm with affection and barely suppressed laughter. "Humans do not optimize their holiday celebrations. They enjoy them." "This distinction continues to elude me," Kyle admitted, allowing Emma to help untangle the lights. "But I am learning to appreciate the concept." The transformation in the alien prince over the past 2 years had been remarkable. When he had first arrived, Kyle had been cold, formal, and completely devoted to logic and efficiency. Living with the Chun family had taught him about spontaneity, emotional expression, and the value of imperfection. It had also taught him about loneliness and the joy of belonging somewhere. "Dad," Emma said, Settling onto the couch beside Marcus with Kyle perched stiffly on a chair nearby, Kyle got another message from his people today. Marcus glanced at the alien who had become like a brother to him. Good news or bad news? Complicated news, Kyle replied, his expression troubled. The Council of Elders has finally responded to my reports about the success of human Kithra integration. They are intrigued. Intrigued how? Zara asked, emerging from the kitchen with a tray of her special hot chocolate that somehow tasted different for each person who drank it. They wish to establish formal diplomatic relations with Earth, Kyle said carefully. They want to send a delegation to study what we have accomplished here. Marcus felt a familiar tension in his shoulders, the same alertness that had kept him alive during his military tours. That sounds like it could be either very good or very bad. Both, Kyle admitted. My people are not malicious, but they are thorough. If they decide that human Kithra bonding is beneficial, they may wish to expand the program rapidly. If they decide it is dangerous, they may wish to end it permanently. They can't end it, Emma said with the fierce certainty of childhood. We're a family. You can't just end families. Kyle's expression softened as he looked at the child who had taught him what family meant. No, young star, you cannot. But explaining that to the council may prove challenging. Zara took Marcus's hand, and he could feel the slight tension in her grip. When will they arrive? 3 months, Kyle replied. The delegation will be led by Lord Crisser, my former betrothed's father. He is not known for his flexibility. The name sent a chill through the room. Even Emma sensed the shift in atmosphere, her magical snow beginning to fall as her emotions responded to the adult's worry. We'll face it together, Marcus said firmly, the same words he had spoken 2 years ago when Kyle's ship had first appeared. All of us. That night, after Emma had gone to bed, and Kyle had retreated to his converted garage workshop where he conducted what he called cultural research, but was actually an ongoing correspondence with several Kithra scientists fascinated by his reports, Marcus and Zara talked about the future. Are you worried? Marcus asked as they sat on their porch, watching the stars that had once seemed so distant and now held immediate personal significance. Yes, Zara admitted, but not for the reasons you might expect. I'm not afraid that they will force me to return or that they will separate our family. Kyle would not allow that, and his word still carries great weight despite his self-imposed exile. Then, what are you afraid of? Zara was quiet for a moment, her hand absently creating small ice flowers that bloomed and dissolved in the night air. I am afraid that they will want to change us, to study us, catalog us, turn what we have into something that can be replicated and distributed according to their grand plans. Marcus understood immediately. You're afraid they'll try to industrialize love. The Kithra are very good at taking something beautiful and pure and making it efficient, Zara said sadly. I fear they will see Emma's abilities and our bond and decide that they can create more like us through systematic breeding programs or genetic manipulation. The thought of his daughter being treated like an experiment made Marcus's jaw clench. Over my dead body. That may be exactly what it comes to, Zara said quietly. But there's something else, something I have not told you. Marcus turned to face his wife fully. What? Kyle is not the only Kithra who has been changed by living among humans. His reports have sparked a philosophical revolution among the younger generation of our people. Many are questioning the cold logic that has governed our society for millennia. That sounds like a good thing. It is. But revolutions make those in power nervous. Lord Crisser is not just coming to evaluate our family. He is coming to decide whether human influence on Kithra society is beneficial or if it represents a threat to their way of life. Marcus absorbed this information, understanding the larger implications. So we're not just fighting for our family. We're fighting for the future of both our species. Yes, and for the right of beings to choose love over logic, warmth over perfection, growth over stagnation. They sat in silence for a while, holding hands and watching the stars. Finally, Marcus spoke again. You know what I think about when I look up there now? What? I think about how that night when I found you in the snow, I thought I was just helping one person. But it turns out I was participating in something much bigger. First contact, cultural exchange, the beginning of a new kind of family that had never existed before. Zara smiled, her skin glowing softly in the darkness. And what do you think about that? I think, Marcus said, bringing her hand to his lips, that love has a way of being bigger than the people who feel it. What we built here, what Kyle learned from being with us, what Emma is becoming, it's not just about us anymore. It's about proving that different species can not only coexist, but make each other better. And if the council disagrees? Marcus's smile was sharp with determination. Then, they'll learn what humans are really like when someone threatens their family. Kyle has seen our capacity for love and kindness. But Lord Crisser is about to discover our capacity for stubbornness. 3 months later, when the Kithra diplomatic vessel appeared over their property, the Chin family was ready. They had spent the time preparing not just arguments and demonstrations, but creating something even more powerful, evidence. Emma had worked with Kyle to document her abilities and create a presentation about human Kithra potential. Zara had compiled research on the psychological benefits of emotional bonding. Marcus had prepared legal documents establishing Earth's position on interspecies rights and family sovereignty. But their most powerful weapon was simpler than any of that. They were happy. When Lord Crisser materialized on their lawn with his delegation of stern-faced Kithra officials, he found a human veteran helping his alien brother-in-law fix Christmas lights while his half-Kithra daughter practiced snow magic in the yard, and his wife prepared a meal that somehow perfectly combined the best of both their cultures. This is what you wish us to believe represents successful integration? Lord Crisser asked, his voice dripping with disdain as he surveyed the chaotic domesticity. No, Marcus replied, putting down his tools and walking over to face the alien lord. This is what I wish you to understand represents love. What followed was not the formal negotiation or scientific demonstration that either side had expected. Instead, it was Emma who took Lord Crisser by the hand and led him through their home, showing him her art projects that combined human creativity with Kithra precision, her school awards that celebrated both her academic achievements and her kindness to others, her bedroom where ice flowers from two worlds bloomed side by side. It was Zara cooking a meal that made the stern alien officials weep with recognition of flavors from their childhood, somehow improved and made warmer by human techniques. It was Kyle, formerly Prince Kale, explaining with quiet dignity how learning to value imperfection and emotion had not made him weaker, but had given him a strength he had never known he was missing. And it was Marcus, standing before beings who could freeze the air in his lungs, defending his family with nothing but words and absolute conviction. You can take away our documents, he told Lord Crisser as the evening wound down. You can declare our marriage invalid, our family illegal, our way of life impossible. But you cannot take away what we feel for each other. And you cannot stop us from fighting for the right to feel it. Lord Crisser stared at this human who had somehow created a family that spanned species and philosophies. And if I decide that this experiment is too dangerous to continue? Emma, who had been quietly listening from the doorway, stepped forward. In her small hands, she held an ice flower unlike any that had ever been created before. It contained elements of both human imagination and Kithra precision, glowing with warmth despite being made of ice, beautiful beyond description, yet somehow perfectly imperfect. Then, you will be telling the universe that there are some kinds of love that aren't allowed, she said with the simple wisdom of a child who had never known a world where love was limited by species or logic. And that would make you the bad guys. The ice flower pulsed with light that seemed to come from Emma's own heart. And in that moment, Lord Crisser understood something that no amount of reports or analysis could have conveyed. This was not just integration or adaptation or successful interspecies cooperation. This was evolution. 6 months later, the first Kithra Human Cultural Center opened in Billings, Montana, with Marcus Chun as Director of Human Affairs, Zara Chun as Director of Integration Services, and Kyle as Director of Cross-Cultural Studies. Image in Kithra was enrolled in a special program that would help other children of mixed species heritage develop their unique abilities. But, more importantly, they remained what they had always been, a family that had started with one human veteran saving one freezing alien woman and had grown into something that would change the galaxy forever. And every night, when Marcus tucked his daughter into bed in a room decorated with ice flowers that never melted and drawings that seemed to move with life of their own, he remembered that snowy evening when he had made the decision to help a stranger. It had been the best decision of his life. In the years that followed, as more humans and Kithra learned to build families together, as the galaxy slowly began to understand that love was not a weakness, but the strongest force in the universe, people would point to the Chun family as the beginning of everything. But Marcus knew the truth. The beginning had been simpler than that. It had been one person choosing to help another, even when it would have been easier to walk away. Everything else had just been love doing what love always does, growing beyond anything anyone thought possible.